So the other day, as I was harvesting one of my magazines, I came across this little blurb in one of them about mask chains, like this. And of course theirs were made of, you know, metal, and they're more jewelry looking. But I thought, oh, that's a really, really good idea for someone like me. I work a couple different jobs. So I'm traveling from one job to the next every day. I'm in and out of my car. You know, I may run an errand on my way home. So while I'm in the car, the mask is off, but as soon as I step out, it goes on. And then I get in the car and it's off again, and then I get out and it's on. And it's off and on, it's off and on all day. And usually when I get in the car, I'm so hot and sweaty, I just rip it off and toss it in the seat next to me, where it falls down in between the seat and the console, and then I'm having to fish it out. And a couple of times I've bolted out of the car without the mask because it wasn't right there in front of me and I didn't see it. So yeah, keeping up with the mask it can be a real issue for some of us. So I thought this chain thing was a great idea, and of course I'm thinking paper beads, right? So I kind of played around with it, and it works really well, and it is not difficult. Kind of. I think if you don't have any jewelry tools at all, you've never done any jewelry making before, this may look a little foreign to you. There's probably easier ways to do it, but I'm going to show you how I did this one, and then you can use what you have or what you can easily get to, you know, make it work for you. And the way this works, of course, it's just like an eyeglasses chain. This goes around your neck, so this hangs in front of you on your chest, and then when you wear the mask, you just, you know, pull it up, put this over your ears. These kind of just dangle to the side. And you wear your mask, and then you take it off, and then it hangs around your neck like a necklace, you know. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I made mine, and then y'all can just make one and show me how you did it in a much easier, more efficient way. But for the first thing that I'm going to need to do for this particular type of mask chain is to make some paper beads. And I have chosen some magazine pages. And when I'm harvesting my magazines, I will find pages that are, a lot of them are, they're like full bleed of a mostly solid color, you know, maybe with just a few variations. And I have this little accordion file that I keep those in. It's this thing, and it's like this, and then I have it, you know, separated by color. And then I'll give you an example. I used blue and purpley pink in this one. But you can see, like, this is just mostly totally blue. So that went in here. It went in here many, many times. And it's different shades of blue, but just pages that are mostly blue, and they don't really have like a cool image on them that I want to keep. I'll stick them in here. But I do like most of them to be, you know, blue all the way to the edges. So those make good paper beads. So what I did was I just pulled a handful of whatever pages I want to use. I trimmed them up so that they're roughly the same length, because the length of the paper does determine the size and shape of your bead. So mine are all about 10 1/4 inches. I cut my pages to 10 1/4 inches long. The width, I cut them, these are 1/2 inch beads. So I really should have like kept a piece out to show you. I've showed you before how you cut paper beads. Just go look at another video. You know, you'll find it. But yeah, you just cut them 1/2 inch at the widest point, just tapered all the way down to the end of the page. And I'm using 2 because my pages are super thin, my magazine pages. And when I used 1, the bead was just so insignificant. I didn't like it. But 2, it was just about right. And I will put a link to this tool, where I get this tool that I use. You can use whatever tool you like. This one is from, I think it's from Paper Bead Girl. And this one is the 1/16 inch. It comes in 2 different sizes. I can't see. Okay, I have to hold this up close to my face. Hang on, because I can't even see the hole. Yeah, there we go. There's a little slot in this metal that you put the edge of the bead in, and then you start rolling, and you don't let go like I just did. Oh, it's going to be one of those videos that ends up being way more editing than actual filming. There we go. Yeah, get it going. And then just roll it up, keeping it centered. We need to come in, don't we? There we go. I have a towel out because it's keeps the beads from rolling around too much when we get to that point. Just keep the middle in the middle, keep the tail in the middle. Put a little, any kind of white glue, PVA. Some people use glue stick on their beads, but I like a white glue that I can spread around. Because, you know, I can it's like almost like sealing the bead as you're gluing the tail down. And then this tool, you just push this up and it pops the bead off the end. And this is, you know, it's kind of significant, it's big, it's easier on my hands than most of the other ones. So, there's our bead. Let me do one more to show you. Got my 2 1/2-inch strips, and the size you make them and the length even is really just totally up to you. This just happened to produce a bead in the size that I want. Size and shape. I normally make a lot of 1-inch beads, but I just felt like they were really too big for this necklace. And how you hold the bead while you roll, that is personal preference. You do you. Right? And don't do that. Man. Okay, I rolled a lot of beads yesterday, obviously, because I made this necklace and my fingers are tired. So they don't really want to hold on. So here is everything that you should not do, and then maybe a couple of things that you should do. Yeah. Isn't every one of my videos like that? I don't know. I feel like they are. I just kind of, you know, if my tail part gets off center, just kind of scooch it, move it till it's back over there where it's supposed to be. Now, I've got these 2 ends here. Make sure that they both get some glue on them. And then take the excess glue and just smear it all over the bead. And then this little extra I put right here. And then I do that with every bead. And then at the end, there's this big wad of dried glue right here, and then you can peel it off. Oh my gosh, it is so satisfying. I love that. So yeah, there are my beads. Now, that's how I make them. I'll just like sit in front of the TV, and while Jason's watching TV, I'll just kind of stare at the TV every now and then and, you know, pretend like I'm watching, but he's usually watching something stupid that I don't even care to watch, so I just concentrate on my beads. And I'll make up a whole bunch, and then what I do is I get this piece of cardboard that has a bunch of holes poked in them like this. See, just this nasty piece of cardboard, well used. And then my designated tin full of bead making toothpicks, because they're grungy, they got crud all over them. And then this is what I use when I seal my beads. You know, you impale them on these toothpicks. And I've been using this Decoart triple thick glaze, and I got this at Hobby Lobby. It's been years ago, so I don't think it's really triple thick anymore. It's probably like quintuple thick. I was actually surprised when I opened the lid. I was surprised that it was even still liquid. So yeah, that's all right. It's working just fine. I'll take just a little bit on a brush, and then I'm gonna move in closer and just kind of make sure that's on there good, and then just gently just roll my bead in the sealer, just like that, and then put it in one of these and leave it alone so it dries. Do whole thing again. Stay on there. And I'm just doing like a thin, even coat. And then let that one dry. Like I said, do what I say, not what I do. Okay, we're gonna just go on. Usually I'm doing, for this necklace, I did about 36 beads. And it won't take you too long to roll up all 36 and then spike them and give them a coat of some kind of a sealer. I like a nice, you know, sturdy, heavy, glossy sealer. Usually by the time, you know, I've done from bead number 1 to bead number 36, bead number 1 is pretty much dry. So I go back through each bead, to each bead, and then I get them a second coat. And usually what I do, and this is really more from habit than anything else, but I'll take a second toothpick and stick it in the hole and then flip these in the other direction and put my second coat on. Because I mean, I started doing that when I was coating beads with resin, because the resin can be thick and it can kind of run, and I would really kind of flip my beads from one direction to the other like that, you know, so that it wouldn't all run down in one direction. You know what I'm saying? So I would do them all, coat them with resin in one direction, and then flip them the other way and with the second coat and let it dry that way, so that it kind of helps to even them out a little bit. That's not something that you have to do, especially if you're using just a thin, even coat of this type of a brush-on varnish or glaze or whatever. But that is just a tip that you can do if you are putting on, you know, a thick coating of something and you want to make sure that it doesn't pool on one end. Just do the double-ended thing so that you can let it sit for a few minutes, then turn it, that whole deal. So I would do me up about 36 of those or so. It just depends on how long you want your bead chain to be. I can't remember. This one is probably maybe 26 inches long. Honestly, I didn't measure it. I just put a piece of string around my neck in the length that I wanted. And then I made enough beads to fill that length. So exact measurement, I don't know. So do it to whatever length you want. Now let's scooch back out a little bit. So once they all get dry, I pulled them off, and I have some red ones here. I'm going to make a chain for my mom, and her favorite color is red. So I've got me, you know, 36 red paper beads, and then about the same number of these little glass beads. And you can use whatever size and shape that you want. Mine are, I don't know how many millimeters that is. 5, maybe 4, or something like that. Anyway, they're just glass beads. And I'm going to use this silver colored beading wire that I got at Walmart. So it's easy to come by. You can probably get it in the craft department at your Walmart if you don't have a craft store or jewelry supply place. This says 7 strand, 0.45 millimeter, and it looks like this. It's just that generic beading wire. And then, okay, that didn't measure. I'm gonna make it about as long as this one, a little bit longer, and snip it. Now, I'm gonna put, on this one, I used a lobster claw clasp, and I just put it directly onto the beading wire with a little crimping bead. See, just like that. I could have done a jump ring or a swivel or something, but I didn't. I just didn't want to go that fancy or difficult, and this works just fine. So for this one, I'm actually going to use these fishing swivels like this, and it's got the little swivel part that actually does swivel, so there's no front ways or back ways. This will, you know, swivel to whichever direction it is, and then it works just kind of almost like a safety pin. And my mom loved to go fishing when she was younger, so she's very familiar with swivels and how they work. She would probably be more comfortable with a fishing swivel than she would a lobster claw. So that's what I'm going with. So you'll need some kind of clasp, 2 of them, that has the hole is big enough for whatever elastic or whatever material the earpiece of your mask is. And you will need the beading wire and then the crimping beads. And this is probably where I'm going to lose some people. Like, really, you could use string and tie a knot if you wanted to. I think it would work okay. You may have to put a dab of super glue on that knot. But I have the crimping beads, I have the crimping tool, so I'm going to crimp. I'm just going to show you. I'm not saying that you have to go out and buy all this stuff if you want to make one of these, because you sure don't. But I need 2 teeny crimping beads. Just move in. And the kind that I'm using are the kind of cylinder, little tube looking ones. They have others that are round and look kind of like a seed bead, but these are more of a cylinder, little tube shape. And to make them work, you need one of these crimping tools. And I'm not really sure, like, it's got 2 little areas in it. See, 2 little holes, and you do one and then you do the other. I'm really not sure exactly how this works. I mean, the way I do it is I put it in the first one, then I rotate it and put it in the second one, and it seems to hold. Okay, jewelry makers out there are like cringing, and they're yelling at their screen, "Oh my God, she's doing it totally wrong." Yeah, I know I am. Just let me, leave me alone. Let me do it my way. It's the only way I know, and it works. It may be weird and awkward, but it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this little crimping bead on the end of my little beading wire, like that. Then I'm going to put my swivel on the end. If you're not using a swivel, it would be the end of your, the little loop on your lobster claw, or a jump ring if you're using a jump ring, whatever. Then I'm going to go around the swivel loop and back down into the crimping bead, just like that. really too big. Now, yeah, there we go. Now I'm going to pull it tight. And I don't have a lot of hand strength, so I just use pliers to help me out. I'm going to hold it here. Whoops. Hold it here. And then just kind of move that bead up. So see, it's tight up against this. Then I'm going to take my crimping tool, which is an actual tool you can get in the jewelry department of your craft store, and I'm going to use the first hole, this one right here. Okay, let me see if I can hold it to where you can see. This first little indentation right here, not the one on the end, this one. And like I said, this is just how I'm doing it. And I'm going to put that crimping bead right in there, and I'm going to squeeze. And I'm going to squeeze good. I'm going to make sure I got the whole bead squeezed. So, yeah, I didn't really squeeze it because I was concentrating on the camera rather than the bead. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to see what that did, but it flattened that crimping bead and it put kind of a notch in the middle on the back. So there's the notch, and the other side is smooth. Now what I want to do is take the end of the crimping tool, the little notch at the very end of the crimping tool, and put it around here to kind of smush those together. That little notch, to kind of smush that notch closed. So, I don't know if I can do it this close up. Let's try. Let's try, maybe I can, if I can keep it in the frame. Okay, putting it on the little end part and squeezing and squeezing. Did it work? Oh, it did. Okay, it did exactly what it was supposed to. It squeezed the little notch together. So now you have a perfectly crimped crimping bead, and it does not pull off. It holds. And sometimes I will trim this right up next to the little crimp, and then sometimes I will just run it into the bead. Let's run it into the bead on this end. I'll show you what I mean. Okay. Whew. Zoom out a little. I want, on the very end, I want one of my red beads. See these, the hole, even though it's the tiny 1/16 inch, the hole is just a little bit too big. I'm afraid it would swallow up my crimping bead, which may be the look that you want, I don't know. But I'm just going to start with my glass bead. Move it all the way to the end. Oops. And then I'm going to take my tail and run it inside the bead so that the bead is over the tail. See? Like that. And then the next bead that I put on, the paper bead, is going to finish covering up that tail so that it's hidden in there. Okay, there's the tail. And I'll put it inside the bead and you don't ever have to look at it again. Okay? Now all you do is continue to bead in whatever fashion you want. I simply did a glass bead, a paper bead, a glass bead, a paper bead. And then you just keep doing that until you fill up your beading wire or string or whatever, until it's the length that you want it. Okay, we're beaded up. We are about 26 inches long, you know, give or take, just personalize it to suit you. And now we're ready to finish off this end. And I've got a couple of inches, I'd say leave at least 3 or 4 inches. I have to anyway because I just need that much to handle it, you know. Any shorter and it gets too fiddly to even handle. So now I'm going to put on the teeny little crimping bead. And then my clasp. Then I'm going to go around the clasp and back down into the crimping bead. Just like that. And I really want that crimping bead all the way kind of snug right up against that very last bead. Make sure that I don't have any gaps here. You want it snug, not so tight that it gets weird and distorted. But yeah, you want it snug. I know you probably really can't see what I'm doing, but I'm just holding on to one piece of the cord and pulling on the other end to pull it tight. And now I'm going to hold on to the crimping bead and pull it all the way. And there you have it. It's pretty much all the way up against that last bead. Maybe just a tiny bit down, but I'm pretty sure I can live with that. Okay, now I want to crimp just like I did before. I'm going to take this tool and use this. I say the first one, it's the first one from me, the second one from the end, but it's the larger of the little 2 indentions on the crimping tool. And I'm going to squeeze my crimping bead in it. Do I have the bead? Yes. And that's going to flatten it and give me that little indentation on one side. Then I'm going to take the second notch, first one from the end, second one from me, and squish that little notched area together. And I'm going to test it, and it's good. Now this I could run back down into my beads, or I could snip it off. Let me see if I can get it back down in my beads, because that's what I prefer. I want it to go through at least 2. It is kind of a wire, so you gotta turn it just right to get it back down there. And we got it. I'm gonna cut the excess off. And we are done. We have our mask chain that you probably couldn't even see anything that I was doing. But hopefully you get the idea. Now, okay, let me pull this one off and I'll attach this one so you can see how that works. I don't have a picture of myself wearing one. I should maybe take a picture, huh? Okay, take your mask, your ear elastic, attach one end, whatever kind of closure you happen to have. Loop it through, like so. And the other end. Loop it through. And there you've got it. that around your neck, and your mask goes with you so that you won't forget to grab it when you jump out of your car, or if you're, outside taking a walk and people come up within your range, you can quickly put your mask on because that's not awkward at all. But we do it because it's safe. So, yeah. Anyway, I am loving this. I hope that y'all will give it a try, and like I said, you can probably make it a whole lot easier than I just did, but that's just the way I did it, and I can do it that way. I think if I tried to do it easier, it would just be harder for me. So yeah, whatever. That's it. That's all I've got for today. The end.